Welcome to the Leading Owls podcast, brought to you by Rice University's Door Institute for New Leaders. Each week, we bring you inspiring stories and practical tips from successful student leaders, faculty, and staff, along with leadership experts and coaches that will help guide you in your own leadership journey. Today, we're diving into a groundbreaking topic that's reshaping how we think about leadership in higher education, the Carnegie Elective Classification for Leadership for Public Purpose. This innovative framework is part of the renowned Carnegie Classification system, long respected for its comprehensive assessment of colleges and universities. This new classification aims to recognize institutions that excel in fostering leadership qualities for the public good. This June, our very own Rice University was announced as one of the inaugural institutions to receive this honor. In this episode, we sit down with Carla Ortega-Santori from the Door Institute for New Leaders at Rice, who has been involved with the classification since its development. Stay tuned as we uncover more about the Carnegie Elective Classification for Leadership for Public Purpose and how it is setting new standards for leader development in higher education. Welcome, Carla. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me, Kelly.
So we're just going to dive right into the questions. The Carnegie Classification for Leadership for Public Purpose just announced its inaugural recipients, and Rice University is one of the institutions receiving this honor this year. Can you tell me more about this prestigious classification for higher education?
Yes, so excited that Rice got this classification. It's an amazing recognition, and really what it recognizes is colleges and universities that are committed to fostering leadership for the public good, attaining things like equity, justice, and all those great things that make society a positive environment and experience. It's also a really comprehensive and extensive self-study that institutions have to go through. It has all these sections that are very comprehensive, and it will look at everything that a campus does to develop leaders. Things like policies, assessment mechanisms, even how staff, faculty, and students are developed as leaders, the kind of scholarship that is produced that is related to leadership. And it's awarded by the Carnegie Foundation. It is a way for all these campuses to show how they are fulfilling their mission to develop leaders.
I think that sounds awesome. Can you tell me more about how the classification came into being?
It was actually a pretty comprehensive and long process. We developed it first as a response to so many concerns about the field of leadership education and development in higher ed, mostly because there's almost 800 institutions that have the phrase of leader or leadership in their mission statements. But not as many as 800 have a way to prove that they're fully committed to doing that. So that paired with a fact that we knew at the Door Institute that students, people, individuals do not develop themselves as leaders, or their ability to see themselves as a leader does not increase simply by attending their 4 years of undergraduate degrees. There has to be a very intentional plan and activities that are designed to develop people as leaders for that to change. Those two things paired, just an overall want and desire for the field of higher education to elevate the capacity to develop more and better leaders, drove us to find the Carnegie Electives framework. We partnered with the Carnegie Foundation and a few other folks to develop this very comprehensive self-study. So we started back in January of 2020. We convened these working meetings with scholars and practitioners. It included, I want to say, around 30 different institutions to come into the conversation to define what leadership for public purpose would be. It was a multi-stage process with input from diverse stakeholders to ensure that we had a really rigorous framework and an application that would be able to give folks an opportunity to provide all the evidence that they wanted to give of their commitment to developing leaders. It was a few years in the making. We launched the first cycle of applications in 2022. We are culminating that cycle right now in 2024 with the announcement of these classified campuses. We're really excited for this first cycle and how it turns out. I mean, it's already turned out great, but we're excited to see all those efforts come to fruition now.
That's so exciting. What was the first application cycle like?
We learned so much. There was a lot of learning in this process. We also saw such a strong interest from different institutions. So it just highlighted the value of this classification, of the process, the designation. It provided a lot of valuable insights into how campuses are approaching this broad idea of developing leaders, of committing to leadership for public purpose. We are hoping for a lot of research to come out of this because a lot of the data from the cycle will be available for researchers to learn more about what leadership looks like in different campuses, what co-curricular offerings look like at a large public state university or maybe at a small liberal arts college, and how the different infrastructures are also influencing that, how different campuses approach leadership. There's so many different frameworks, conceptual models, competencies that campuses use. So we're just really excited to see the broad context of leadership and how it's happening.
Excellent. Now, Rice University was awarded the classification this June. What are some of the highlights from Rice's application that made our campus stand out?
Such a great question. And I'll start my answer by saying that I wasn't able to participate in Rice's self-study because of a conflict of interest, but I am on the other side of the process with the reviews. The things that stood out for Rice were the comprehensive assessment mechanisms that exist. So there's a really clear plan for assessing and measuring outcomes when it comes to curricular and co-curricular programming. There's very intentional design around assessments and how those are linked to different programs. So curricular and co-curricular offerings are always measured to see how the outcomes are aligned to the original design or intent of the program. One of the bigger highlights also was the idea that Rice convened this really broad group of campus stakeholders and partners. So a lot of people from across campus participated in the self-study. They came together to gather all the data, make sense of it, and put together a really comprehensive application. And they also used this opportunity as a really big developmental opportunity to see where their strengths were lying and where some growth opportunities were also evident so that they could address them as a group going forward. A lot of the reviewers pointed out the very robust co-curricular offerings. A lot of those are from across campus, but some of those are from the Door Institute. But yeah, there was a lot of great, diverse offerings across campus.
Awesome. When does the next classification cycle begin?
So that is happening soon. The applications will be available on January 13th, 2025. So that's when applications open up and people can start purchasing their applications or initiating their applications. Then they will be able to purchase or initiate those until September of that year. And then applications would be due in April 10th of 2026. So a little over a year to complete applications in this next cycle. And then the classified campuses would be announced in 2027.
Okay, excellent. Why should higher education institutions consider applying for this classification?
I mean, it's a national recognition for excellence in leader development and leadership education. It also is a great way to make institutions go through this really intentional self-study. Ultimately, I think when campuses are able to attain the classification, will attract students and faculty that are really passionate about leader development and leadership education, because when they look towards their options for the next year, and if they're really passionate about being developed as leaders, they'll look to these campuses that are intentionally thinking about it and aligning it to the overall campus culture, to their strategy, etc. It encourages a lot of reflection and improvement in leadership practices, which is always a great thing to do.
What are reviewers looking for from applicants this time around?
First, a way that campuses could express or articulate really how they approach leadership for public purpose on campus. So whatever that overall strategy looked like, what their campus definition was, and making sure that that definition was present throughout the application was really important for reviewers. They were also looking for any evidence of presence or intentionality around curricular offerings and co-curricular offerings, seeing how widely available those curricular and co-curricular offerings were. So could students access those opportunities really easily? Was it limited to a small number of students? Reviewers were also looking for any evidence of faculty and staff being developed as leaders or providing them with support to conduct any scholarship or research related to leadership. Any evidence of campus-wide assessment mechanisms was also a key point that they were looking for, a key indicator. And any future plans that were also indicative of progress in any of those areas was really important for reviewers.
That sounds great. Now, if an institution is interested, where should they go to find out more information about applying for the classification?
So one of the best ways that you can get more information on the classification is by joining our learning community, Higher Led. It's easy and free to join. We offer webinars, we offer best practices exchange sessions, and it's really a learning community for everyone that's interested in learning more about the classification or learning more about leader development in general in higher ed. We also have information available on our website, and you can always contact me if you have any questions or concerns about the classification.
Well, thank you so much for joining us to talk to us about the classification and Rice being one of the first to receive the classification this year. We're so excited to see where it goes from here and to learn more about the way that it's impacting higher ed. Thank you for joining us for the Leading Owls podcast. We will be back next week with more leadership journeys and tips to share. New episodes release each Wednesday. For more information on the Door Institute for New Leaders and our free leader development programs for Rice students, please visit door.rice.edu.